off from the beginning on building your brand, your personal brand, because that was extremely important. But beyond building your brand, another challenge that we're all facing is really around income generation. That's how, the umbrella of this whole thing is that I need to generate income somehow. And I can either generate it through opening my own business, or I can generate it by working for somebody, or actually I believe I can actually do both. And the question was, is that actually possible? So starting from that point, there were people in our lives that I looked at and I was like, my goodness, this person actually has climbed the ladder all the way to the top. I think Lerato shared extremely important key, tips on how to climb up the corporate ladder, how to get to your vision, how to meet all of your goals.
I think it was more directed particularly to the young kids, the one who are starting off. Like I say, when I started off, there was no talks like this. Nobody really gave you insight of what it really is like in the corporate world. So you went there with your own assumption. Most of my friends were all just starting out, so we all could not really give each other guidance as to exactly what the reality was about. So as a person, learn to be flexible, because just because you study something does not mean you're going to end up doing that. So be flexible when you are inventing or creating or building your career.
Because we go to universities, we go to schools, we study, and it's all about get to the top, get to the top. But you haven't told us what actually happens once you get to the top, or when you get that ceiling. What must happen then? Is it really possible to almost climb down? So through engaging Lerato, it was absolutely interesting. Her story actually inspired me as well. Because
in each career, and each time I moved from a different role, it was starting over. Taking a step back because now you're at a higher position, but being willing sometimes to take a step back in order to advance. So it's not always going up, 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 it's going up, down, up, 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 down. So there's always cycles as well in when you're doing your career, and that's fine. It's part of things that we are not taught, but it is part of what reality is. You will continue as you move along, continue reinventing yourself and reinventing what your career, what your end result of your career should look like.
My feedback after that speech was, I wish I knew this when I was 24, because it would have really helped me a lot in terms of progressing. Sure. I kind of had to find my own way.
And then it was about business. There's a big push in Africa about businesses. Everybody needs to start a new business, right? It's another form of income generation. In fact, it's actually become if you don't have a job, just start a business, right? It's one of those things that really frustrate me, because not everybody's an entrepreneur, guys. It's not true. So it was about, bringing in somebody who then started a business, and who started a business from scratch, from literally the bottom. Young African individual, and that's how Christopher came in, but he's actually successful, and he's actually made it.
My name is Christopher Kapanga. I am the owner of YzeUp. Today I'll be discussing on a topic, how to start a business with no money.
Cool. So as we were saying, you're saying that you basically started this business without money. So what does it mean?
Well, to have no money means you have no income. You've got no disposable income, and you can't afford to pay rent, and you can't afford to buy food. So your survival is basically dependent on others. And how I got to this stage was I'd met a supposed businessman who was going to assist me, but eventually I found out that were empty promises. So I just decided to take the plunge and had no formal employment and take off. And this is where the hustle now starts, where you start looking for means and ways to fund this business, to get it going. So what is YzeUp? YzeUp is a cleaning company that provides cleaning services to your domestic, commercial and industrial sectors. So some of the principles that I will talk about will be the power of connecting with people. That's you going out and network. The power of using available resources.
Then it was about, is it possible to actually have a career as well as, you know, start your own business. And that's how Ben came along, you know, because here's Ben who works full-time, a full-time job, but has created his own brand, which we were all tasting today, you know, shushu sauce. And it's a conceptualization, it's the building of the brand, it's the fact that actually he started this thing and it went out into the market. That was just absolutely inspiring.
So when I was speaking to what I would like to call reflections of myself. These are 25 to 35-year-olds that are working in a South African corporate system that, to be bluntly honest, was not designed for us. And by us, you can choose how far you go down that line, but I mean it in every sense, socio-economical to political. So what we then find ourselves struggling with is we walk into these spaces and these spaces make us tiny. When we interact in the world, we see all the opportunity around us, especially in South Africa. So when I presented the talk, I was presenting it to someone who loves innovation, sees the gaps, but is in a corporate space with responsibilities and is constantly thinking about the jump. I don't think there is one way to be an entrepreneur. I think at the end, you will have to make the jump. However, there's a journey to the jump. I'm talking to someone who wants to make that jump, but is still within the journey.
But then there was this whole thing of, okay, so we've spoken about the writer's vision, we've spoken about Christopher's vision as an entrepreneur, we've spoken about Ben, who is balancing both the dream as well as the reality, you know, of corporate. But that's their visions. They seem to have made it. How do I build my vision? And in walks in business life coach Joanna. Here's an interesting woman who is able to just unpack so much in just one session. Just talking to her makes you leave and you actually go home and you start thinking about yourself.
Okay, so I think just about you giving a summary of what is that you want to talk about today. Just a sneak peek, you know?
Okay, so my session is very much about finding your vision.
Okay.
And to be able to find your vision, it's really about getting a really good understanding about who you are.
Okay.
And that vision is leading you onto a journey. So your life is a journey. And so, but what is the destination? Where are you going? So it's really about finding those steps and helping people to kind of find those steps today. So it's also about giving tools to everybody here just to assist them with that vision. Life passes us by very quickly. So it's also about just being very conscious in your life to say, what is it I want? And it's also about creating the life that you want that's just joyful. A lot of times we settle. And we settle because we're fearful. We're fearful of taking that next step.
Okay.
And to get to that next step, we kind of need to know who we are. So it's about understanding yourself better. So when Judith talks about branding, it's really getting to know who the authentic self is. And what are your needs, values, wants.
She asked such a key question in one of the sessions today, which was, if you could mention 100 skills about yourself, tell me about, 100 things about you. What can you do? And all of us in that room were like, 2, 3, 4, I can tell you. But to get to 100 at that moment is absolutely impossible. And there she was, she unpacked it. We walked in with the assumption that we're great already, because we unpacked that. There's a lot of questions that we're dealing with as the African people in the workplaces or in our businesses. There's almost like a confidence thing, and how do we build that confidence? And I think that came out a lot today, and I think many people, I'd like to think, that walked away with embracing their greatness. So I think today worked absolutely beautiful because people could engage the speakers, you could ask questions, there were no time restrictions.
Today I actually came supporting one of my former managers. I used to work at We Clean It All with him, and he's been a great inspiration to me. So I was hoping I could come get knowledge here and there, and then look forward to going to a new world and implementing everything that I've learned today. Okay. Basically how he came about with his business model, how he started, because when usually we had our talks, he'd tell me that he never really had finance to start up his business, but then through all that struggle he was able to conquer all of it and embark on a journey which is now here to share with us.
You can't just be moving without knowing where you need to be, your end goal. You need to have an end goal and then work backwards from there. And I think those are the points that I can take away from today.
That's awesome.
And work on, focus on until the next session. So
awesome.
what's next is always the big one, right? So we announced in the room there that tech is the next big thing, right? Coding is the next big thing, really. Building technological platforms is the next big thing. So we're going to be having, they're kind of called hackathons, but we're calling them YzeUp.Thons, you know, and the topics will be released very soon. It'll be a different format to this though. So it'll be pretty much you're on your computer and it's practical, and we're thinking about 4 sessions. You can't code in 1 2-hour, 4-hour session. So these ones will at least be 4 sessions, and you can go through, you know, a gentleman by the name of Jody Mugeni, who has been coding all his life. And again, if you look at his journey, both as an entrepreneur as well as, you know, somebody in the corporate space, has kind of made it really all the way to the top. And it's time to share that knowledge. So that's the next thing in terms of tech. In terms of our personal growth, is people have now discovered what their personal brands are, or at least they've started. There's been a demand for, can we have a session on marketing? How do I market myself? How do I get myself out there? How do you build a marketing strategy? So we're definitely going to be doing a masterclass on that. It's coming soon. And it'll be really about how to show up as a brand. I've also been asked a lot to go to the university's final year students. Do they really know where they're going, you know? So I think there's a YzeUp coming in there, and you are brought onto this earth to be great. You really are. And I think we're not told that a lot. It's just life has been, you know, kind of moving us, you know, left every time we're trying to actually go straight. So all I gotta say is that in here, you're great already. It's about discovering what makes you great. And once you've discovered what makes you great, it's about making sure that you're leveraging on it. It's about making sure that you are doing everything in your powers to live the great life that was actually made for you. So get off the couch, man. You're the only one that can get you off.